Joining us. The few of you that did, I know it's summertime and everybody is out enjoying as they should be. And I know we all wish we were with them, but thank you for making the effort to be here today. So I'll call to order the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority board meeting of July 23rd, 2025. I land acknowledgement. I will say that we acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabeg, the people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further, give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. I'm just going to ask whether anyone has any pecuniary concerns. You could mention it now. If not, you can certainly do it later. Seeing nothing, thank you. I'll call for additional agenda items. Seeing nothing, thank you. So I move that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors approve the agenda of July 23rd, 2025. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Member Gregg, Member Vice Chair Dubik. Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. The minutes of March 26, 2025 in your board packages. Move that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors approve the full authority minutes of May 28, 2025. Again, may I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Member Shaw, Member Winters. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing nothing, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Business out of the minutes, nothing at this time. So we'll move to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? Again, seeing nothing. So I will move that in consideration of the consent agenda items listed on the July 23rd, 2025 agenda, the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors receives the following items. 1. Environmental Planning, Section 28 permits, May and June 2025. 2. Administration receipts and expenses, May and June 2025. 3. Minutes of the GSCF May 2025 meeting, and 5. Recent media articles. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Vice Chair Dubik and Member Shaw. All in favor, please? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Move on to business items under administration, the administration building renovation update information, attachment 6 in your agenda package. And I'm going to call it Morgan. I stand corrected. Oh, hang on.
Chair. Thought today we would give a bit of an update on the administration, the renovation so far. Mainly it's pictures to show how it's gone. So far, everything's been going quite well. The progress to date, the demolition's done. Majority of the walls are framed in. The basement is all framed in. Plumbing, electrical moving along well, and the footings and the foundation of the small addition out front has proceeded nicely, and I believe concrete is to be poured for the walls is to be poured tomorrow, and backfilling next week. So definitely moving along just as we'd hoped. And currently there's been a few changes, as there usually is, but ultimately between some allowances that we came in under and a few things, right now we have a credit so far of our change orders, which is pretty rare. So going well. I've got a number of photos. I did put the dates in the bottom corner because I wanted to show a few from early on before the wall started going up, because it was amazing how big the space is without the walls in place. So one from the basement here, just again showing again no walls up at this point, and another one from upstairs. And showing all the nice light coming in from the skylight and all around, and being able to get throughout the building. This is a view of when the outside exterior wall had been taken down, and they have a wall they've constructed inside, of course, to keep the weather in that out. But it just shows the height nicely, and shows the height all the way up for the second story, and shows sort of where the landing is going to be. And the next picture is the architect's rendering of the same space, again showing that sort of landing up above. And this is from that same landing, simply showing the view out and the view of the lands that we're going to have from that second story at the top of the stairs. To the right of this on this picture would be where the lift would be coming up, and again there's the view with the from the architects, with the lift on the right hand side there, the short railing, and again that view to outside. So again, you can certainly see the architect's vision of it as things are moving along here. So again, just more views of the basement, and the view right here would be the boardroom, and then the small room on the side, the meeting room on the side of it. You can kind of see a little line on the floor there where the divider wall would be. And again, that would be the view of the boardroom, and then the next one shows the architect's rendering as well of the same space. So again, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, everything's going in, and within hopefully the next few weeks, they're going to be getting to where they're going to be starting installation of drywall. So it'll be very different. A view of the front entrance, where the administration desk will be, and a little storage area underneath, and then just a few different areas throughout the lower level. First, just go back one. You can see the short walls there. Anywhere that they have the short walls, that is where there's going to be glazing, or essentially glass interior partitions, where those are. So if the studs don't go all the way up, then that's what's proposed there. A view of the upstairs. Again, studs are coming along for most of it. That's the staff lunchroom area. And this area here will be the top of the stairs, with the working area on the left hand side. And of course that is a temporary wall that's put up there to again keep the outside out. So, and looking at the planning area and just different areas upstairs, this one's a view of the vault that was there after the vault's been removed. So some of the block walls, no point in taking down a good wall if we don't have to. So those have stayed. A few repairs to it. Just more views. So again, the main thing was just wanted to give a bit of an update, show some of the progress that's been there. The last couple are from the outside view, just as they were obviously a little messy as they're trying to get the foundation walls and the retaining walls in place. But again, coming along nicely. So looking forward, again, they should be backfilling. I said this week when I wrote this, it's probably going to be early next week with when they get at it. I want to make sure the concrete has set. Electrical and the HVAC inspections are near the end of July. Installation started right after that, and drywall starting in mid-August. So we're very excited to see the progress, and sharing some of the pictures and progress with staff, and wanted to make sure we provided the board with an update as well. So thank you.
Excellent. The pictures are great. I mean, that really does help put it in perspective where we really are. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns? Vice Chair Dimick.
Well, thank you so much for the update. It's wonderful to hear that we're on track. That's always great news. And just wondering, any surprises, good or bad, or anything of interest, sort of along sort of this process that you might want to share? Maybe you found something in the walls or whatever that may be. Just wondering if there was anything sort of interest. Thank you.
There's been remarkably few surprises. I mean, we did a pretty thorough job of cleaning it out, and there was definitely some historical documents, binders, different things that we made sure we brought along with us to the rental space. So there's been a few little things. There's been a few change orders, but a lot of them again we've been able to make changes that limited sort of the costs. So I think luckily, no, there hasn't been a lot of surprises really that we've come across, and we've worked with the architect and the contractor to address them as simply as possible.
Anyone else? So just for my edification, and I know we've talked about it to death, but where did we land on with the skylight design and how that's going to work? Just refresh.
So we met with the ad hoc committee last week about it, and we are working with the architect to come up with a bit more information on it, and we intend to bring that back to the board. We're hoping in August.
The issue that won't die. I get it. Great. Thank you very much. That's really good news. Moving on to point B, the Inglis Falls accessibility upgrades, information attachment 7 in your agenda package. And this time I'm going to say correctly, Morgan's going to be addressing.
Good afternoon. So as you may know or may not know, we recently did a upgrade at the Inglis Falls washroom, as well as an accessibility path to the lookout. So just give you a little background on that. In alignment with the 2003 recommendations outlined in the Inglis Falls Management Plan, one of the standout bigger sort of projects at the Inglis Falls area was the washroom, to make it more accessibility and more inclusive to all of our visitors. So the project was originally budgeted about $80,000. We were going to have a general contractor come in and do that, and we were going to fund that 50% with the conservation land reserves, as well as apply for some grants and hopefully get that covered by some grants. Unfortunately, we didn't receive the grant money that we were kind of hoping on doing it, so we had to pull back in 2024 and relook at how we were going to do the project. So through the revised approach, instead of involving a general contractor, we would do it in-house in the operations department. So myself and my team decided to do that. That would cut down on some of the costs involved, and also do a little bit more of the hands-on work. So the trimming, some of the painting, some of the demolition. And we successfully reduced the project to about $15,000. And then as that was approved, we took that from the conservation lands reserve, and we went ahead with the project this year, and we wanted to get that done. We were shooting for May 24. We were about a week late, so we're pretty happy with the results of that. So, guided by the Grey County Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Inglis Falls Accessibility Project, proceeded in 2025. It included renovations of the washrooms, so we redid the roof. We redid a lot of the siding, the interior, all new toilets, all new grab bars. We included baby change tables, full repaint. We also brought out the concrete. We took some of the old concrete out, so that we'd have room for the accessibility doors that are all operated on buttons now, and the emergency button inside, and it's all compliant under the CSA accessibility regulations. So that's worked out well. So the financial budget implications. So the original $80,000 due to lack of external funding, as we talked about earlier, we reduced it to 65,000. And thanks to the people in my department, my guys worked really hard at that. Spencer, Cameron, and Lloyd. I have to mention those guys. We were able to save a little bit of money, as well as some community members pitched in some time and some effort and some money as well. And we were able to complete the whole project with for about $58,000. So a little bit under budget as well. And that included a new pathway, accessible pathway to the lookout, which Ian Erickson also helped out to make sure the grade was going to be right. So before we were going to do it, due to the accessibility rules and regulations, you have to have a certain grade. So yeah, I'd like to mention the community members that did pitch in. So we had Patrick McCormick from McCormick Painting. He did all the painting of the interior, the exterior, he did the doors, and he all donated his time. So that was fantastic. As well as Madison McDonnell from Graber's Paint and Decor. They donated all the paint to this project. So we were very grateful for that. And I have to mention Chris Robertson and his team from Extreme Linings and Coatings, and they played a key role of getting that accessibility path. That was just kind of an extra added bonus because we're going to have a certain amount of concrete. And if we just like did a little bit more, then we were able to do that. So that was an extra bonus. So we were pretty happy about that. The communications team worked hard to get the word out. So we got it into the Sun Times and the Current, as well as Bayshore News Center. We had some media exposure through the radio, and so far it's been received very well. Obviously, we've been there quite a bit, and the accessibility pathway to the lookout has been utilized. So we're very happy to see that. I'd also mention that our team also like spent quite a bit of time pruning the area, so the accessibility lookout, you can really see the falls now. So yeah, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Morgan. That's fabulous. It's a great show and tell today, by the way, with all the pictures. Thanks for that, because it really does help. No,
I do have pictures that we could look at here. We have some before and after. So you see the before here. This is the accessibility pathway to the lookout, and you'll see to the left there, that's the before. And so we have like some stone dust there. And then the after, we have this nice regraded concrete pathway to the lookout. So everybody can enjoy. You'll see here how we jumped out the concrete here. As well as we were able to keep some of the siding, but we did go down to Indian Falls in one of our places that we're going to have to demo and reuse the sidings to save cost and money. So my staff did that, and we resided it with a lot of the very good sidings, cedar. And you can see the paint job that Patrick did. It looks great. This is the before washroom. So as you came in to use our washrooms, this is what you would see. You can see the floors aren't very nice. The urinal was wrapped up because it was done, and you know it just needed an upgrade. So then you'll see the after. It might be hard to see, but we did do new flooring in there, as well as all painted, and we put some new wall board up, as well as retrim. And then you see the baby change table there. You'll see the new grab bars, as well as the emergency buttons there, and the accessible sink. And yeah.
okay.
And yeah, any questions or comments? Turn it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Member Maxwell?
Turn yourself on.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair. The question I have, Tom, how many washrooms are in the Grace Sauble framework that need to become compliant within, I think it's 2025? Well, we're coming up to that, or in it.
So currently, we have our building that we are renovating right now, so that would be considered a washroom. And so that will be done. We have washrooms at the pavilion at the Arboretum as well, and they are compliant. For the most part, they are accessible, and they do have the grab bars. Another washroom we'd have to look at is Haibu, and that's our other like washroom with running water. The other ones are kind of like off the beaten track privies that might not meet that won't meet that sort of standard just due to not having the access to electrical or and the trails in that area wouldn't be considered accessible. Yeah, did that answer your question?
The only thing I was just going to ask, thank you very much for the efforts and bringing the cost down. That's amazing. Getting the community support and help in that is amazing. The only question I had was, I know that you had said in there that you're hoping to get funds from GSCF. Don't think that happened, or any other grants that might have come through. Obviously, that didn't happen. Just wondering what kind of grants you might have. It is amazing municipally conservation, like the amount of grants that are going away these days. It seems to be very difficult. And I just wondered, did you have many avenues that where you're trying to find something? I didn't push that. Stop it.
Yeah, so that more fell into the land side of things. So while Becca was off on maternity leave, we had Margaret Potter in there, and she applied to one. I think it was Service Ontario. Tim, maybe you know, correct me if I'm wrong. And did quite a bit of work and a lot of like it was very well done, and it didn't work out. There was a few other small ones that unfortunately didn't pan out as well. So it wasn't for a lack of effort. There was quite a bit of effort, and we were kind of shocked that we didn't get it. But yeah, we try our best, and sometimes we don't get what we think we might.
You're not alone. Again, thanks for the efforts to get what you did, the cost down as you did. So I will move that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors accept staff report 021-2025, Inglis Falls accessibility updates as information. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Member Shaw, Member Winters, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to business items, conservation lands, point B, in on the Bay MOU and contribution agreement, resolution attachment. Again, that's number 8 in your package. And so, Becca, welcome back, and look forward to this. Just, yeah, a note on this. Obviously, we've talked about this a fair amount, and if this gets to a point in conversation of negotiation or costing, then we may have to move this to closed session. So we will see where this conversation leads first.
Map. There we go. Okay. It's been a while. Valerie, if I could just get you to pull up the map in the appendix, I think that would be maybe the most helpful. Thank you. Okay, so this project to potentially sell a portion of Best Western and on the Bay lands has been to the board a couple of times in closed session, and it went to City Council in open session on Monday. But since this is the first time being brought forward in a public setting, I'm just going to go over the history again of the property and the leases that are involved. So in 1979, GSCA, with financial support from the province and the city of Owen Sound, purchased the land that the Best Western Inn on the Bay was built on top of. In 1982, a 99-year lease was signed between GSCA and the city, with the city as the leasee. In 1985, the lands were then subleased by the city to a private company for the development of Inn on the Bay. The hotel was built and paid for by this company. This lease was most recently assigned in 2018 to Inn on the Bay, operating as Best Western, and the hotel is still privately owned. In October of 2023, the city and GSCA received a request from Harry Brer on behalf of Best Western to purchase the lands that the hotel was built on. This request went to the board in closed session, and direction was given to work with the city and Mr. Brer on options for a land severance and a sale of portion of GSCA's Inn on the Bay property, which is shown on the screen. The severance of land would allow GSCA and the city to continue to own and maintain the public trail and the waterfront, while the hotel lands would be sold to Best Western Company. In September of 2024, the board directed staff to negotiate a contribution agreement between the three parties, which you've already seen, but I've included in the package. So the purpose of the report today is to approve a memorandum of understanding as shown in Appendix 3 between GSCA and the city that sets out the sale process, funds dispersal, release of leasehold interest, and maintenance of the retained portion of the property. And also to approve the tri-party contribution agreement in an open session. So the MOU provides that both parties contributed to the purchase of these lands, and the net proceeds of a potential sale would be split 50-50. That if there is a binding sale or agreement, the city will release its leasehold interest of that portion of the lands, that a land appraisal will be required, that the retained portion will remain with GSCA and the city, that the MOU is binding in respect to the disposition of funds if a sale is finalized, but is not a binding contract for the disposition of lands until approved by council and the board. After both of these agreements have been signed, the next step is to conduct an appraisal on the land, but not including the hotel, to determine the fair market value. From there, a purchase and sale agreement will be drafted and brought forward to City Council and to our board. Then the severance process with the city planning department will take place. The public will have opportunities to comment through the severance process as well as GSCA's land disposal process. And once public feedback has been considered, a land survey will be completed, legal documents will be finalized, and then we can transfer the lands. So at this time, are there any questions on the MOU, which is new to you today?
Thank you for the report, Rebecca. Great job. I was surprised about the line that went in the water, but we'll get into that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the motion on the floor so that we can bring it into discussion. So whereas the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority under Section 21C has the power to acquire by purchase, lease, or otherwise any land that it may require, and subject to subsection 2, to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of land so acquired. And whereas the GSCA Board of Directors provided direction to GSCA staff in closed session report 023-2023 to work with the City of Owen Sound and 263-3267 Ontario Inc., operating as Best Western Inn on the Bay, on options for a land severance and sale of a portion of GSCA's Best Western Inn on the Bay property, which is part of the larger Bayshore Lands grouping. And whereas the GSCA Board of Directors directed staff to negotiate a contribution agreement during closed session report 035-2024, that the GSCA Board of Directors approved the contribution agreement, and further that the GSCA Board of Directors approved the draft memorandum of understanding between GSCA and the City of Owen Sound. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Member Shaw and Vice Chair Dubik. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay. That was very easy. Thank you very much. Anything you wanted to add, Tim, or we're good? Good. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. So now we will move to the CAO's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we're making record time today. A couple of things that I just wanted to bring to the attention of the board. Originally, at the start of the year, when we went through the budgeting process and the work planning process, we didn't think that we were going to be able to run our day camp this year because we were out of our office, obviously, for the duration of the year. But we did, our education team was quite creative and found some other areas to run the program. So we will be running 3 weeks of day camp out at our Haibu property. The themes, these are at the end of July and 2 weeks in August, and the themes are wilderness survival, the way of water, and wild about wetlands. And each of these camps will include special guests. So really, really happy to see that this program didn't have to take a year off and that we can keep offering it to the community. We did try to expand this through at the watershed. We tried the town of Blue Mountains and we tried a location in South Bruce Peninsula, but we weren't able to get the uptake this year. We won't stop at that, but for this year, we did have to pull the plug to make sure that things were going to remain feasible. Anyway, really good news. You may have noticed on the Monday of the July long weekend that it rained a little bit. We actually had huge amounts of rain, especially in the eastern part of the watershed, that came up quickly, pretty much without warning. They weren't tracking across the lake as would be typical. They really bubbled up, starting over the Desborough area roughly, running along the highway, the County Road 40 corridor, dropping about 3 inches of rain everywhere along the way, and then stalling out in the Thornbury-Clarksburg area and dropping 4 to 5 inches of rain over 3 hours. The curves that we use to look at what level of storm this is, so 1 in 5 year, 1 in 10, suggest to us that this exceeded a 1 in 500 year storm for that 3-hour intensity period. It was an incredible amount of water, and there was localized urban flooding and erosion noted because of that. And our team ended up sending out notices to Meaford, Chatsworth, and Town of the Blue Mountains. Unfortunately, given the nature of this event, it wasn't so much as this is coming, but this is here, and this is the amounts of water that we are seeing, and keeping those lines of communication open. And especially the Town of Blue Mountains town staff were really good about communicating back to our team to let us know where they're seeing problem areas and what that looks like on the landscape, because it's really important that we know this as well. And then in the future, we can identify where those areas might see damage again and keep that communication going. On June 8th, the Grey Sauble Conservation Foundation held their Memorial Forest ceremony. The weather was good and the event was very well attended, and it was a very positive event. The tree planted this year was in the Trees of the World section of the Arboretum. It was, I believe, a star dogwood. I'm not sure if I have the name of that right. Very beautiful tree. Starlight dogwood, and it was near the bench that we have, the memorial bench for Elwood Moor. Yeah, so very good event, and always nice to see that happening, and the foundation doing all the work they do to put that on. On that note, the foundation at their AGM did resolve to move forward with dissolution of the foundation, and we're helping them work through this process. So we've connected them with our legal team, and we've confirmed with our legal team that they'll honor the rate that they give Grey Sauble to help the foundation through this process. So the dissolution, I mean, to picture it, it's similar to sort of power of attorney estate planning kind of stuff, where you're looking at your liabilities, divesting of your assets, and so on. So we'll continue to support and help them through that process. And we're talking internally as a staff team to see whether any of those programs can carry on or what they look like in the future. And we know that some of the foundation members, at least, are happy to continue in a volunteer capacity outside of the framework of the formal foundation. As I notified the board earlier in the month, there have been recent changes again to the conservation, not so much the Conservation Authorities Act, but more just the conservation authorities and where we sit in the world. So a order in council was released a few weeks ago, which confirms that all CA programming is now under the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. when I believe it was when the budget bill maybe came out, or the cabinet announcement earlier in the year, it identified that conservation authorities would be under MECP instead of M&R moving forward, but no further information was provided to that. So the order in council provides a bit more information, and we just need to see where the ministry staff land. What I mean by that is the last time this happened back in 2019 or so, most of our programming went to MECP. Our minister responsible for the CAs was MECP, but the hazard programming side of the work that we do stayed with M&R. So at this point, we don't know for sure how that's going to land, and that will depend on what the ministry and the province decides to do with their bureaucratic staff teams and where they put those individuals. And make sure that expertise remains. The other order in council that was passed recently was to identify Hassan Bassat as the new Chief Conservation Executive. Hassan's role will be as a deputy minister within cabinet. We don't know for sure what that means right now, but we expect that by the end of the summer or at very latest sometime in September that we will have a much better handle on that. But we're hoping for really positive things. We're hoping that this is a move in the right direction and will provide a positive relationship. So Hassan, if you don't know him, was previously the CEO and president of Halton Region Conservation Authority. He made great progress and changes for Halton Region. He was the chair of the minister's working group when we were working through regulatory changes and we were having dialogue with the ministry. There was a working group put together made up of members of the province, AMO, members of conservation authorities, and Hassan was the chair of that. So we're hoping that this new relationship will provide us with effective mechanisms for communicating with the province, and we're excited to see that relationship grow and make the changes that we may need to make to meet the objectives that the province has. On the note of change, we've had a bit of a change in our planning department. So Olivia Sroka, who was our regulations officer, has moved on from Grace Sauble, and she's taken a completely different role at a different conservation authority in the province. And we're very happy for Olivia, but we are sad to see her go. But with her absence, we've taken this opportunity to rethink what the department looks like. So we have moved our planning technician, Nicole MacArthur, into an intermediate planner role, which would be a similar role to where Olivia was located. But instead of bringing on another planning technician, what we're doing instead is, with our strategic focus on customer service and improving that customer service and streamlining, we're actually bringing on a planning and regulations admin assistant. And this person will be tasked with doing several things, but first and foremost will be that face and voice to be able to answer the phone, talk to people, answer their questions when they call in, respond to the emails, but then also to triage applications through to the planning department, keep track of those, keep track of the fees to make sure that those fees are coming in the door. And if they're not, it won't be an off the side of the desk thing. It'll be a person who can focus on doing that. And then also to be able to respond to regulation inquiries. So a big part of what happens at the office is people, when they're buying properties, want to know what they can and can't do on their property. And that either comes directly from the individual or from their legal counsel as just a purchasing lawyer. And so this person will be tasked with doing the legwork on that. And it also fills another really important gap for us, is being such a small organization as we are. Valerie is our face of the organization when people come in or call us, but Valerie needs time off too, and it leaves a gap for us. So this person will be able to fill that gap for us too, so that when Valerie is away for whatever reason, we do have another person there with the capacity to step in and help out. So really happy about this. Really hopeful that it'll provide better frontline service for the organization, and then also better back-end service to help the planners. So the goal here is better customer service, making sure that the money that needs to come in the door is coming in the door, and taking some of the load off of the existing planning team so that they can get down to the work that they need to do and not be distracted by sort of side of desk type of things. So really, really positive. And the final thing I wanted to mention is, you may or may not have come up against this yet, but multi-factor authentication is now required to get onto GSTA's system. if you have questions, I do not have those answers, but Gloria does. So by all means, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Gloria or our IT team, and they can help you through that. But it's just the an important part of our cybersecurity stuff. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'd welcome any comments or questions from the board.
Thank you, Tim. Valerie gets time off. So with that position, just curious, it sounds very public facing and it sounds like a great idea. Will they be the primary point of contact for municipal planning departments when finding information about permit requests, et cetera?
I think for something of that level of detail, we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. Certainly for the public calling in, but for municipalities, it may still make sense for your team to contact our team specialists directly, and those relationships have been very good in the past. But our team will certainly, hopefully, have more time now to have those discussions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for CAO Atlantia? Vice Chair Dubick. Jesus.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so really interesting to hear the organizational refinements. It's allowing us to focus on the customer service, as per sort of your strategic outlook. So that's really great news. I do have a question about the increasing incidences of these supercell storms. Because we are starting to see them more frequently, and just wondering, does that start to change about maybe how we, as a conservation authority, think about sort of our communications, or does it change anything about how we do things internally? Does it start to impact any of our processes or the way we do things?
At this point, I'm not sure that it does. I think what it does do is it's certainly providing opportunity to build and strengthen those relationships with municipal staff, the emergency response staff and the operations staff and the road staff, to ensure that communication is two-way, and we can provide them the information they need, hopefully in most cases before they need it, and that they can provide us the feedback so that we know where the problem spots are. But the nature of these events right now is such that they are, as you mentioned, spotty, and it's hard to know how they're going to come up or when they're going to come up. So will it change overall processes at this point? Probably not. But if more and more of them keep happening, it may have to build into the period of record for whether it's rainfall or storm flow. But I am actually going to put Ian on the spot here as our water resources engineer to see if he has any other thoughts.
I think one of the big things with these is that, again, because they come up, the challenge that we have in flood forecasting is if you send out too many warnings that this thunderstorm may, there's one area around that may get significant rain. We don't know where it's going to be in our watershed. But if you send out that warning too often, then it's not listened to anyways. And then you lose that. So during the summer months is usually when these, more significant localized events happen. Yes, we are seeing a lot of them, and we're trying to sort of track them, and there's no rhyme or reason as to certain areas they're hitting, although Thornbury has seen its share. So we try to keep track of them. We do have our staff that when we see these going, we keep an eye on it, and mostly we're reaching out to the municipalities directly saying, this could be localized urban flooding, is the message that we try to give to staff in what we're seeing. And we try to keep an eye on it as it's happening to say, this is happening here. At that point, you're within an hour away, or less of it hitting. So There isn't much more we can do on warning on those aspects. But as Tim said, we've been really working to have better communication with the municipalities, with their staff, and sharing that information both ways on the problem areas and trying to get the information that is needed for specific areas as it is.
Anything, Member Maxwell?
Thank you, Chair. And I think this question, I don't know, hopefully it ties in properly. So by moving under the MOE, will this put us in better position to deal with climate change and adaptation for flood planning and management practices?
No, that's a very good question. So we're moving to MOE or MECP, they're called now, Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, and away from Ministry of Natural Resources. I don't think it'll change anything to do with factoring in climate change. The provincial planning statement tells us to consider climate change when we're looking at these types of things. And I suspect that when the province eventually gets to the point of releasing new technical guidance, so there's substantial documents that we use when reviewing things and making these decisions that come from the province that are the technical guides for flood and erosion and for shorelines. We suspect that when those new technical guidance documents come out, that they will have factors for climate change built into them. We've seen draft models of the work that's being done for the shoreline technical guides, and they certainly do factor that in. But I think regardless of which ministry that program ends up under, that won't change. That'll still be a factor that's being considered.
Well, the only reason I have because of that last event we had in Clarksburg and Thornbury, and I don't know if you can tie that to, climate change, but I just wondered if it was be better forecasting coming out of the Gray Sauble even underneath the MOE. That's all.
Yeah, no, I don't think the ministry that we're under will change anything. But the important thing to remember is the forecasting that we do and that the conservation authorities do across the province is excellent. We provide really good notices and information where it's possible, and we work in conjunction with Climate Change Canada and then with the province as well to provide that sort of multi-tiered notification system. What we have to remember, though, is we're monitoring and we're targeting for a level of risk. And so flood forecasting is one thing, but then reaction to that in terms of policy and development regulation is another thing. So we do regulate to a 100-year storm or a regulatory storm. When we start to see spotty abnormal events like the one that we saw in Thornbury and Clarksburg, where we're suggesting greater than a 1 in 500-year event, that's beyond the level of risk we would consider typically anyway, because you have to draw the line somewhere. But I think the important thing is going to be if the same areas keep getting damaged over and over and over again, that needs to be considered both by the Conservation Authority and by the municipality.
I would almost also say, and that's really interesting because that microclimate impact, it's interesting. You only had to see Toronto, London, there were other places that were being hit. Not that it takes larger urban centers to get action happening, but it certainly has more of an impact because it's impacting larger urban areas and more people, that it should spark more conversations and definitely bring more attention to it. Not that we are secondary, but it certainly should be across the board mechanism that should be triggered. So are there any other questions? Oh, Member Shaw.
Yes, thank you. My question goes back to the comment earlier around collection of fees and having somebody with that, I guess, as their primary responsibility. What is our process today? Can you get your permit without having paid your fee? And I guess what is our typical like collection time frame on those fees?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. No, where we hold the cards, as it were, so a permit or a regulation inquiry or something like that, where we're going to be the ones providing that product. No, the fee is definitely part of a complete application, and that product, whatever it is, does not go out the door until that fee comes in. Where we see challenges time and again is with the Planning Act side of things, where we're providing comments to municipal partners. If they haven't collected a fee, the clock doesn't stop ticking. So those comments still need to get out on that Planning Act application, or our comments aren't going to be considered. We have had periodic issues across various municipalities where those fees either aren't being collected, or they're being collected improperly, or they're not being forwarded to us. And so we've had discussions with those municipalities and working to correct those situations, but it does take a lot of time off of our team. It requires a lot of time of our team, rather, and that pulls them away from providing the comments on the application that they're under the gun to get out. So we're hoping that having a person who can focus on that and not have it be something they're trying to do off the side of their desk will smooth that process dramatically. In addition to that, we're also looking at new MOUs with all of our municipal partners and having a discussion about what method or mechanisms work best to make sure that it's easy for your teams to collect those fees, and it's effectively getting those fees to us in appropriate ways and times.
Anything else for CAO? Seeing nothing. Okay, we'll move on. Chair's report. I have nothing to report at this time. So that will move us into the resolution to move into closed session. And I will move that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors proceed into closed session at 2:21 to discuss matters related to the following. 1, minutes of the closed session of the regular Board of Directors meeting held on February 26, 2025. And 2, 2025 CAO mid-year performance review closed as it relates to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including authority directors or authority employees, GSCA Administrative Bylaw, Section 4, bracket XVI, bracket B, and further the CAO Tim Lantier and Administrative